Hey, I'm Supats, lifelong solopreneur. Now living my life with only one passion to help solopreneurs to launch their digital products on fast track so that they can be profitable as fast as within 1 week, and they want to scale, they can join the membership. And as a bonus, I show them how they can sell their digital products all over the world using affiliates. Without further delay, let's get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to New Beginning Inspiration for You podcast. And as our promise, we have another inspiring guest for you. And I was looking at his profile perfectly. I can just say one thing that I haven't interviewed anyone with this kind of background before. So you are going to be in a treat today. Daryl Dittmer. He is an author, entrepreneur, sober. That goes into his title. So that must be really interesting. Its life story must be really interesting. And on top of that, student of life. And that clearly shows me that the guest whom I'm going to interview is not full of ego, because when someone is student of life, that means they understand that they still want to learn a lot and they are not arrived, and they are humble, and that's why I'm really excited to interview Daryl. So I am really eager to know about your story of struggles and story of success. Just tell me.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a real pleasure to be here. My life started in Michigan and in the U.S. and we I was born in a household. My dad was a mechanic, a household that was fairly strict. It was, there were a lot of rules. There were a lot of things we needed to do and to accomplish and to try to be. Most of those had to do with a work ethic, had to do with being respectful, had to do with not going out the boundaries or outside the boundaries of what our religion taught us when we were kids, all that sort of thing. So it was a fairly strict upbringing. My mom took care of us kids, and my dad again was a mechanic, so he worked a lot. He was supporting three kids, and that was, we watched him work a lot, and then he tried to teach us that similar work ethic, which I believe he did. I always remember the story fairly fondly, not completely fondly, but we were at church one Sunday, and he, after church, he put me in front of one of the local farmers, and I was 14 at the time, and he said to the farmer, "Can you put him to work?" And the farmer said, "Yeah, I can put him to work." And so that sort of began. I had done some jobs and things like that when I was younger, but that was really the beginning of my work ethic, which contributed to many great things in my life, and also many things that I had to overcome in my life. So I worked on a farm, and I worked on several farms as I was a kid, and that was, it could be 10 hours a day, could be 12 hours a day, could be 14 hours a day. And we started off at $1.50 an hour, which was great then because I was a kid, and it just seems kind of weird now as I think about that I started working at $1.50 an hour. But so regarding drugs and alcohol, I got involved in drugs and alcohol when I was 13 years old, and that escalated. That became something that it's all I wanted to do, and as I progressed through my teenage years, a lot of the people that I grew up with started to fall away because they didn't want to do it as hard as some of us did, which included me. And they didn't want to live that lifestyle, but I did, and I wanted to I wanted to continue to find ways to uh, to feed my addiction or my addictions, and it was drugs, and it was alcohol, and it was nicotine, it was whatever I thought could make me feel good. And but then at a point, it didn't make me feel good. At a point, it became something that I wrestled with. At a point, it became something that I didn't understand the damage that it was doing in my life, but I had this friction inside of me. I had this friction that was just, I knew I wasn't the person that my parents raised me to be. And that was a difficult place for me. There was just this fight inside of me that kept going and kept getting worse, and I became a liar and a cheat and a thief, and it was, petty crimes and all of these sorts of things, and it just continued to get worse until I was involved in an intervention where my parents basically said, look, either go talk to this drug counselor or get out of our life. We don't want to be around you. And that was a sobering time for me, although it didn't drive me to be sober. But I decided that I wanted to go talk to this drug counselor. And my plan was, I'm going to lie. I'm going to lie to him. And I couldn't. He intimidated me. The moment I walked into his office, he said, you can't lie to me. You can't. You're not getting out of this. You're, and I was 18 at the time, so I was intimidated. All this tough guy stuff just sort of melted away. And I told him the truth to the best of my ability, which at that time, I don't know exactly what that was, but I told him what I'd been doing and what my friends and I had been doing, and some of the things we'd done that nobody knew about, and the drugs we'd done and all that sort of thing, and the lifestyle we were living. And at the end, I remember saying, that's the only thing I remember about it. I said, what do you think, Doc? And he said, I think you need to go into treatment. And so a few weeks later, I ended up in treatment. But my defining moment, I think, was December 31st of 1984, which was 4 days before I went into treatment, which was January 3rd of 1985. I was at a New Year's Eve party, and I was around probably a couple hundred people. It was a big party, and I'd never felt so isolated, and I'd never felt so alone, and I'd never felt so just depressed. And I wondered at that time, would I be better off just not being on this planet? And that was the point where, whether I knew it or not then, that was the point where something shifted in me, and that I went into treatment 4 days later.
Wow, that's really, yeah, that must be a life changer for you, because you are surrounded by friends and family and still you are feeling alone. So that, yeah. So I just wanted to ask you, means farming is really hard work, and you started with hard work, but then you was also stuck on this hard path. And I I know, because getting sober is not easy. That's also really hard work. So I think you were building all your muscles, especially mental muscles, in your teenage, or in really your uh, early childhood. I can just say that. Can you elaborate more on that? Because this path is not easy. It's not, yeah, for everyone. No.
It's not easy because we're born and grown into with how we're conditioned to try to feel good somehow, and to try to have things be easy somehow, and to not have to have things be difficult. All the things that are around us are trying to make things more convenient and easier in our lives. And the interesting news is that life can be difficult. Life can be a challenge. Life can be something where you really need to have willingness, and you really need to have sometimes a desire to change and to go inside yourself and to do things differently. You know, when I was a kid, I was handed this box of beliefs, and they said, "Here's all your beliefs. Here's what you're allowed to believe." And that's what I was given. And I had to unravel all of that. I had to look at that. So it was definitely a journey. It was a difficult journey. And you know, it's not over. I'm doing it until, you know, until the chickens come home to roost, or whatever you want to call it. It's a forever journey, and it's a journey, you know, until I'm done with this planet, and then we'll see what happens after that. I don't know. I don't know what happens after that, but I know on this planet, I have to continue to do the best I can for as long as I'm here. And those aren't necessarily the things that we're taught when we're young. We're taught to reach outside to feel good, when we really need to reach inside to feel good. And we're taught to fight situations, and to fight to be better, and to fight disease, and to fight for your job, and fight all these things. And where the peace comes, and where the contentedness comes, is when we learn not to fight, when we learn to approach
Surrender.
life in a different way. So and so that can be the difficult part, to relearn or to unlearn. But on the same hand, it's also the most freeing part of life, because when I take full responsibility for my life, and I don't look outside for everything else to make me feel good or make me feel better, I take responsibility for going inside. That's immensely freeing, because I'm the one that can get this process going, and I'm the one that can do it with the help of, you know, whatever, call it the universe, call it God, call it higher power, call it whatever it is. But if I align that with me, if I align that power within myself, it's amazing what can happen with life.
Yeah, it is so important because we just keep on fighting, and it's going nowhere. So once you take responsibility, I think that is the most important thing, because when you take responsibility, you know you can change it. Because when you put the things on someone else, or when you blame circumstances or other person and all, then it goes into their hand, so then you cannot control. So it is so important to take responsibility, and many times people shy away taking any responsibility. And I remember you mentioned about set of beliefs. So how faith is important means you, so whether the your faith was really instrumental in your journey.
It was, and it was a different um, type of faith than what I grew up with. It was what I grew up with was I was raised Lutheran, which, you know, Christian religion, and so God is up there with, you know, a white robe and a chalkboard, and everything you do wrong, he's going to write down. And then you're going to have to, you know, pay the piper at some point. You're either going to go to heaven because you did the right stuff, or you're going to go to hell because you did the wrong stuff. And this is, you know, this forever thing. So you really want to try to do the right stuff if you can. But for me, that promoted fear, that promoted guilt, that promoted things that I didn't think, as I started to unravel that belief system and look at it, I didn't think God wanted me to feel all those things. Why would he want me to be fearful? Why would he want me to be guilty? You know, and excuse me, or to feel those things. And so I had to relearn a lot of that stuff. And faith to me at that time was just believing in, I had to believe in the Holy Ghost. I had to believe in God. I had to believe in Jesus, which is fine. And I think, there's nothing wrong with religion, because I think that certainly is a good thing for a lot of people. It just didn't resonate with me. It didn't hit me in the right way. It always felt like there was some friction there. So faith to me now, and it's a long story in terms of getting there, but faith to me now is just knowing that I'm being led, knowing that I'm being taken care of, knowing that what happens in this lifetime is for the best for me, but also for everyone around me. And sometimes difficult things need to happen to teach me the lessons that I need to learn in this life. And knowing that that's okay. There can be difficult things. It doesn't mean the world's ending. It doesn't mean, wow, I need to run away, right? I just need to move through these things and understand that it's for the best for me, but also for everyone around me. And I think that's an important thing to understand, because it may hurt me, but it might be the best thing for my family. It might be the best thing for my neighbor. It might be the best thing for the world that I will never know. I will never know how that rolls out. I'm not the architect. I'm just the guy with the hammer banging some nails, doing my part of the work. And so faith to me, again, it's about freedom. It's about understanding that I don't have to be in charge. I don't have to be the guy at the controls all the time. I can allow myself to be in that river of life and float through life. And that doesn't mean it's easy, but that means it's a different perspective than what I grew up with.
Yeah, and many times people confuse with being religious and being spiritual. From your talk, it was very evident that you are more of a spiritual than a religious person. Because even I studied lots of religions. My kids, my husband, everyone went to Christian school. So I did a Bible study. Then I just enjoyed that, and even when at your age I was confused. I didn't know which path to take, and luckily I took the spirituality path, means because even drug option was open for me. So but still I have no idea. Every time I went to anything faith filled world, actually that gave me some kind of peace, and it I got answers for my question, so I just kept on dwelling on that. So I can relate to you. So it's more like a spiritual journey, I can just say that. And so what are the tools and principles you can achieve for the life you desire? What are the tools and principles are really needed?
I think you mentioned the Bible, and I love the
Mm-hmm.
Bible. I really do. I think the Bible is a beautiful collection of wonderful stories and wonderful lessons and wonderful wisdom. I really do. But I heard one time, and this isn't an exact quote, but there was somebody who was studying the Bible, and he read the whole thing, and he said, at the end, he said, and I don't know who it was, I can't attribute it to anybody, but he said something like, I went through the whole Bible and I didn't find an ounce of religion in it. And I think that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I try to live by, and these aren't in any order necessarily, but one of the things it says in the Bible is and it relates to new beginning, which is the title of your podcast. It's, unless you become like a child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. And to me, that means, new beginnings and looking at things differently and exploring and knowing that I don't know all the answers, and being filled with wonder and all of those sorts of things, reverence for all of the beauty inside and outside of us, all those kind of things. And I think that's a incredibly important thing for me to remember, and a tool that I have to constantly, have this wonderment sort of attitude toward my life and toward life in general. But, I think some of the more concrete things, and something that's incredibly important to me, is being honest, not necessarily with other people per se, but honest with myself. And if I'm honest with myself, I'm going to be honest with other people. And that's just how it works. And what I've found over the years, that I'm allowed to say I don't like this, and I'm allowed to say no, and I'm allowed to say this is beautiful, and I'm allowed to say, wow, that really touches me, and I'm allowed to cry, which is something I don't know if I was allowed to do when I was a kid. It was kind of frowned upon. So being honest with ourselves about what's happening with us at any given point in time is crucial. And that includes being able to say, which is another one, things aren't right now. I'm not on the right path right now. I need to change my trajectory. I need to do things differently. And I think that's a big part of understanding that, we can't find a solution until we acknowledge that there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so those things, I think, a willingness comes into play. We have to be willing to do the difficult things. We have to be willing to accept that this is not going to be an easy ride. And if somebody's embarking fairly newly on a new journey, it's tough. It really is tough, but the
Phenomenal.
rewards are amazing. I have a life today that I never would have been able to envision or even dream about having 30 years ago or 40 years ago. It's so those are some of the tools. The principles are honesty and humility and unselfishness, and understanding that I don't have the answers, and understanding that everything I do doesn't have to be for me or my, how I feel. I'm a huge fan of, the less I spend time caring about how I feel, the more free I am. It doesn't always have to be perfect. Things don't always have to work out the way I think they're supposed to. In fact, if I let go of the way I think things are supposed to work out, the better I am, and the better my life is. And the better the more, we take the bumps out of life by accepting life. And then, there's a little bit of a paradox there, because I have to accept life as it is, but I also have to do the work. I also have to do what I know is in front of me to be done, that supports living that kind of life. So those are a few of the things that I try to align myself with on a daily basis. And at some point, they just become life. They just become how we live, and we don't have to think about them. And I think the best thing after that is to give that away to other people, which is why I do what I do now. I want other people to have a life beyond their wildest imagination.
You know, what you said, that really made sense, because the ultimate selfishness is to become selfless. And that's the way you will grow, and that's the way, means, yeah, you will be actually great God's servant. So that means when you leave this earth, you can just go and show your face, and God will say, "Hey, you are faithful servant of mine." So that's I learned really hard way. And I also saw in your profile that success is not in just one area. Success has to be holistic. And for that, I always would like to share the story of Steve Jobs. And his last write up was full of regrets. And he said that people thought I had a great life, but they don't know that I didn't have any friends, I didn't pursue any of my hobbies, I didn't have no life. And he said, I just focused on Apple, and now I'm here on the sick bed. I can trade everything except the sick bed, and no, it is too late for me to understand. And that's what I try to tell people, that success has to be in every area. It is not just because see, you must have heard stories that many times startup people start startup and they end up having divorce in their life because they just too much focused on their company and they totally forget about their family. So there is no balance. Means I understand, when you are building your dream, when you are building your business, there will be little bit of extra work and there will be little bit of unbalanced things happening, but still, as far as you know your priorities, you know your life, the things are really, things will turn out for, yeah, they will turn out good. So you tell me, means when you tell that the success has to be in every area, so which areas you are talking about?
What I talk about and what I think is crucial is body, mind, heart, and soul. I have to attend to my body, which means, there's everything around us is really not good for us. We have to search to find things that are good as far as food and as far as ideas about our health and that sort of thing. And we have to do the work to realize what might be good for us. And I'm constantly doing that work. But if I don't take care of my body, and I look at these as, if we just said there's four aspects of us, and we said, each aspect is 25% of us, and sometimes it's more than others in terms of those relationships. But if I'm not taking care of my body, and I'm not eating right, and I'm not exercising, and I'm not doing the things that I know are correct for me, I'm probably operating at 75% of what I could be operating at in terms of me and my life. So there's a lot that has to do with the body, but also the mind. And I think it's important to continue to gather. I don't look at it as knowledge as much as I look at it as seeds. I read a book and there are seeds being planted. I talk about things that have to do with being better in my life and improving myself, and all of those things help my mind. But also, I think something that helps my mind is strengthening my mind to be able to say, I don't want that, or I'm not going to do that anymore, or this person isn't good for my life. I need to make a decision on who I spend my time with and how I spend my time, and the things that I do. I'm the CEO of Daryl Dittmer, and we're all the CEO of our life, so we need to hire and fire appropriately. And I think that was a difficult thing for me for a long time, because it was hard for me to say no, and it was hard for me to say, we need to move you out of my life, people that weren't healthy for me. So now I don't have a problem doing it, but it takes practice and it takes time. So as far as my heart goes, I'm a big believer that we need to soften ourselves. I need to soften myself. I was my name, and I just found this out not long ago, but in Irish, Daryl means oak tree. And I'm 6'6", and I'm a fairly big dude. And I've been called an oak tree. I've been called a lot of other things, but I want to be like a reed. I don't want to break in the wind. I want to bend with the wind. And that's been a huge focus of me in my life, is softening my heart. And all of these things are related. So to me, the heart and the spirit are very interconnected. And so I meditate, and I do breath work, and I quiet myself, and I do this every day. and I stretch and I try to become more limber physically. And, all of those sorts of things are feeding all of those aspects of me. And, uh, and, and so I talked a little bit about the spirit, but the spirit is connecting with that quiet for me. It's connecting with the source and where we started, and the beauty of having my eyes closed and watching my breath, and there's nothing else. A few thoughts float by, and they're allowed to just be clouds. I don't have to attach myself to them. And so finding that quiet place, and it's interesting because that quiet place helps my body, and it helps my mind, and it helps my heart, and doing the right things for myself helps all of those aspects. So that's what I mean when I say success in life has to do with all areas of life. And I feel like for me that covers it.
Yeah, this is so important because everything is interconnected. Everything is interconnected. Now, even doctors have started understanding the benefits of breathing and yeah, sitting in silence and all, because it's proven to reduce the BP and heart attacks. So you might be thinking, but hey, it might be, yeah, your hard work, but still it is having a good effect on your body. And association, it is so important because we learned in COVID that if you want to catch a cold, yeah, associate with people who have cold. And so I don't know how you got into drugs, but it's more likely, yeah, you were associating with people who were taking drugs, so you started that. So it's the same thing. So as an entrepreneur, if you want to become successful entrepreneur, you should associate with people who are really successful and who are going to the places where you want to go. So that's actually, it's really it's a wise point. It's really amazing. And you talked about food. Yeah, so whenever we think about GMO, so what is not good for other cultures is also not good for human being. And yeah, we are doing so many changes with our food, and ultimately it is coming back to us. You covered everything in yeah, your last sentence. It was so amazing. So you mentioned about helping people. So to whom do you help and how do you help? So who is your typical means basically prospect who is coming and asking for help, and what kind of offers do you have?
It really depends, and I look at life as there's always an opportunity to help. And I've had some wonderful mentors in my life, and I sought out my mentors, and I was able to find them, and that was a beautiful thing for me. And now I try to be a mentor. I'm not a life coach. I'm not anything like that. That's just not necessarily my thing. But everybody that crosses my path, um, and I look at life from a very simplistic perspective. If I and I help people with concrete things. I help people with business. I help people with sales. I help people understand those things. I try to help people with life, which is why I wrote my books. But it really is, there's something to be said for giving a smile to the cashier at the store, making eye contact with people and giving a smile at walking down the sidewalk, saying good morning. There's people can be so wrapped up in what's going on with their lives. You may shock them by saying good morning, or by saying hi, or by striking up a conversation, or by smiling. You may shock them right out of their being tied up with the things that they're tied up with in their mind or in their heart. And I feel like all of those simple things can help someone else. um, I've helped a lot of people in the realm of sobriety and addiction, because because I thoroughly understand that to overcome anything that's an impediment in our lives, whether it's addictions or any other dysfunction or fears or whatever it might be, we have to overcome ourselves and all of the things that we've already spoken about. We have to find ourselves in a position where we can enjoy our life and feel content and feel fulfilled in here. All this other stuff out here, it matters. We have to have enough money, we have to put food on the table, we have to do all those things, which I've helped a lot of people achieve in that area. But it all starts inside of me. It all starts inside of me. And that I love that what you said about Steve Jobs, because he was paying attention to some things that are important, but he also forgot about many things that are important. And I think to enjoy financial success, we have to take care of the inner success. And I think that's absolutely crucial. So I wrote my books. My first book is called When I Stopped Fighting, and it's called The Unexpected Joy of Getting My Head Out of My, we'll call it butt, which was important to me because I wasn't living in a way that supported being fulfilled, and I wasn't living in a way that supported being contented. And just because I got rid of the drugs and alcohol didn't mean that I had arrived. It didn't mean that I was there. It just meant that I took away a hurdle to getting to content and fulfilled. Then I had to do the work. Then I had to do something different. So the book is about my story. It's about, and it's not this is very important for me. It's not telling anybody what to do. It's not saying you should do this or you should do that, or you're not going to get there if you don't follow my plan. It's none of that stuff. It's my stories. And what I want people to do is relate to those stories, and maybe they can relate to something in their own lives that helps them overcome, that helps them get to a different place. So I really wrote my books to help. I'm not here for the money. I'm not here for the accolades. I'm not here for anything else other than get books in people's hands, and hopefully they find something that helps them with their lives.
That is really good because books, wealth of knowledge means we were in a Holocaust museum in Washington D.C. and whenever someone wants to control people, they want to burn books because that's the source of knowledge, and they don't want people to have knowledge. So that was
Mm.
the thing. And you are writing books, you are sharing your journey, that will be so inspiring for someone who is struggling, who is going through so many challenges, and they will know that hey, you had similar challenges, you overcame all those challenges, and now you have a great life. So you are showing by example. So, and hey, it's up to them, it's their life, their choice. Yeah, whether they were, and yeah, you are not forcing them. Yeah, okay, you must do it. So I even actually I started writing my books like a couple of decades back. I haven't published them yet. Right now they are in the process of beta reading and all that. So how did you I just want to know more about your book writing journey, because nowadays I get invitations for webinar. Write your book in half day, write your book in one day. And I said, oh my goodness, I started writing my books 20 years back and you are giving me invitations like that. So I want to know more about your book writing journey, writing, publishing, everything.
Sure.
Can you please share?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Um, it's funny because when you said a couple of decades ago, my wife and I didn't get married till I was in my later 30s, and my she was my fiance then, and maybe even my girlfriend at that point. But I was relating some of the stories of my youth and saying, here's the things I did, and here's some of the chances I took, and here's what happened with the police in this time, and here's the drugs I was doing. And she's looking at me and she's like, well, that's not you. That's not the guy standing in front of me. That's not the guy I want to be with. That's not the guy that I'm going to marry. And my response to her was, remind me to write a book someday. And so she said, and she reminded me over time. And life gets busy and we do other things and business considerations and personal things. And so I never took the time to write my books. And then after COVID, we changed a lot of things. We had some business interests, we had some property interests. We were involved in a few things from that perspective, and we decided to just sell everything, and we moved, and we just said, you know what, we're going to change it up, and which I think is a wonderful thing to do, and I highly recommend it. Even if you're scared, it's really good to change things up. But that freed up some time for me. It freed up some things, that I didn't have to pay attention to anymore. So I said, you know what? I'm going to write my books. And I said, I think I have a book in me. My wife said, I think you have 5 books in you. And I said, let's settle on 3. So I decided that I'm going to write 3 books. And so I started writing, and I'm going to say it was January of 22-ish. And I just started writing, and I can be a fairly extreme, focused, sort of dedicated person once I get on something. And so I started writing my book, and I'd go up to my office, and I'd sometimes it would be 3:00 in the morning. I've had some ideas. I'd just start writing, and I would write and write and write. My wife wouldn't see me all day. And I'd come down for some food every once in a while, but that was how it started. And so it took me about somewhere between 2 and 3 months to write my first book, but I wasn't done, and I knew I wasn't done. So I started writing my second book, and within 6 months, I had written 2 books. And I linked up with I looked into potentially publishers. I looked into self-publishing, and I decided to self-publish and just do what I could to control the process and understand the process. So with that, I got an editor. I got somebody to help me with the cover. I got somebody to help me with marketing. It was a good process because I didn't understand any of it. And so that brought me to, being able to launch my first book, which I launched September of 23. And then, and that was great. It was friends and family, and, people were, wow, Daryl wrote a book. And so it was a really cool process, and talking about it and getting it out there and that sort of thing. And that self-publishing group helped me do that. And then a year later, I published my second book, which was September of 24. And so it was, and I did a lot of that work myself. I still stayed in touch with the self-publishing company, but I learned so much the first time that I was able to do a lot of it the second time. And they're on Amazon, and I'm very happy with the process. I'm very happy that the books are out there in the world. And the third book, I probably will wait another year ish until I start really writing that. It's outlined, but I haven't started writing it yet. And I'm allowing it to come about when it comes about, when it resonates within me to start that writing process, because I know it's not going to take me long to do it. That's when I'll do it. But my focus now is getting, as much attention as I can on book 1 and book 2.
Amazing journey. So what is next? What is coming up next? I want to know more about that. What's your plan? I know your third book is coming, but I just want to know, what is your plan?
I appreciate
No.
that. And it's interesting because my I don't have a lot of plans, quite honestly. I did when I was younger. I had goals and I had, all this stuff I wanted to do. And then I learned about intentions and what I'm intending to do. And so I look at my life now more as intentions and what I intend for myself, which doesn't have to do with the path. It doesn't have to do with me deciding how to do it. It has to do with me knowing where I'm going, which comes back to faith, um, and doing the work every day, and that allows me to move in that direction. So that may be kind of a boring answer, quite honestly, but
No, I just wanted to know more about your goals, your vision.
yeah, my
So,
my vision is um, book 3. I also have a podcast, which it's called When I Stop Fighting, the podcast, which talks about all of these sorts of things. So, going forward, it really is what's going to help me help the most people. And I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. It might be speaking at drug treatment centers. It might be doing something online as far as writing and giving people access to my writing, those sorts of things. I really don't know. One thing I do know is when and I'm completely okay with not knowing. I'm completely okay without knowing. I actually love not knowing because when I don't know, the universe opens up to me. I did not know
yeah.
that I would write 2 books and publish them September of 23 and September of 24. I had no idea. 5 years ago, I had no idea that was going to happen. 4 years ago, I had no idea that was going to happen. But as I opened myself up, those opportunities came to the forefront, and I just did the work. So what's next? I don't know. Maybe it's a TED talk. Who knows? There's a number of
Yeah,
things
yeah,
on tap.
that is really great because plan. I always think that okay, if it goes according to my plan, it is good. But if it doesn't go according to my plan, then it is even better because then it is going according to universe's
Yes,
plan or according to God's plan. So that is even better. And if I retrospect about my life, and I really every plan which didn't go as I planned, it turned out to be better
absolutely.
even about my career even about my career. So yeah, yes, I'm really thankful and grateful about that answer because that really it's giving mm, quite insights about the life and your future. So our audience is mostly like aspiring entrepreneur, budding solopreneur, small business owners, affiliate marketers, course creators. So, uh, what what kind of advice you would like to give to them, or if they want to look for you, means in which area? Of course, you mentioned which area you can help, but where can they look for you? Where can they follow you, and where can they get more nuggets about your teachings?
Thank you. There's the advice that I would give and the advice that I was given and utilized, and there's so many things, but it's okay, like I just explained, it's okay to not know your path. It's okay, you can choose a path, but at some point, for me, the path chose me. The path said, "This is where you're going, Daryl." And I'm like, "All right, well, I'll just put my head down and do the work to the best of my ability." And it's funny. We owned a restaurant for a little while, and this just popped into my head, but it's indicative of not knowing. And my wife and I are both in the kitchen because the restaurant business is tough, and people leave and people come and people go, and sometimes you have to do all the jobs yourself, which is which is always interesting. I was a dishwasher, I was a cook, I was the guy toasting bread. I did everything. And so one day my wife and I are in the kitchen and we're buried and the tickets are coming in and they're just coming in and my wife and I aren't getting much food up and we're not getting much food out. And she starts crying and she's just, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't go anymore. And she's tough. She's pretty tough, but she was at her limit. And I just kind of grabbed her by her shoulders and I said, hey, honey, all we got to do is put our head down and just do the work. And this whole thing's going to come to an end real soon. And so we did that. And she brings that up all the time. She's like, thank God you did that, because I apply that to my life now in doing difficult things. And so it really is, we have to learn, we have to gain knowledge, but most importantly, we have to do the work. And we don't always have to plan the work. Sometimes the work shows up. Sometimes the work will show itself to us and it may not be what we planned. And I think that's one of the most important things is I have to go into solopreneurship or entrepreneurship, I need to be focused, but I have to have an open mind about the possibilities. I have to have an open mind about this could be way better than I think it could be. Or I have to have an open mind about, what, this doesn't seem to be working. Maybe I need to shift gears. Maybe I need to do something differently. So I think there's an aspect of openness, which is really, really important. Another thing that I think is crucial is being willing to take risks. And it doesn't necessarily have to be financial risk. It might just be something as simple as doing things that I know I need to do, but I don't feel like doing. And that's a risk. And that can be difficult. One of my mentors said to me, the best time to do things that you don't feel like, or the best time to do things is when you don't feel like it, when you know it's the best for you or for your business or for whatever you're trying to achieve. And so those are a couple things I think that are really important. As far as how to find me, I have a website. It's daryldittmer.com, which is DARYLDITTMER.com. That's a great place to find my books. I also have journals on my website because I believe so much in the power of writing, and not necessarily writing books per se, but just writing and getting things out and cleansing ourselves and moving things through ourselves that can be stuck. And writing helps us unstick ourselves. And I found that great in my personal journey, but also my business journey. Every aspect of life can be helped by writing. So my books are on Amazon. The titles are When I Stop Fighting and When You Stop Fighting. Or you can type in Daryl Dittmer and you'll find my books on Amazon. I'm on X at Daryl E. Dittmer. I am also on Facebook and Instagram, which is When I Stop Fighting.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot for all the comprehensive information. We really appreciate you coming and blessing our community, blessing our family. Really appreciate, and thanks a lot. Keep up the great work. I'm going to look into your books for sure. And thanks a lot for spending your time, precious time with us, and teaching us so many things about not just business, but about ourselves, about our life too. Thank you. Really appreciate. God bless you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. God bless you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to be a guest on your podcast. You mentioned, so I'll surely look into it. Thank you.
I'm gonna put you down here, Sue.
Success stories from busy professionals just like you. Finding a community of other professionals. Building digital products on the side. Completely changed my journey. Instead of feeling alone and overwhelmed, I now have people who understand exactly what I'm going through and celebrate every small win with me. Michael R., financial analyst and digital product creator.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We are blessed to have you as part of our community, and whatever way we can help you, serve you, let us know. Please subscribe and let us know how we can help you, what resources you want. We have lots of free resources and also free collaboration joint venture groups you can join and explode your business, because most solopreneurs quit their business before they launch their first products, and I don't want that to happen to you. And that's why we have special launch service where you can monetize your digitals and become profitable as fast as within 7 days. And if you want to scale your business, join our membership New Beginning Success Collaboration, where we'll provide you MRR and PLR products and collaborations so that you can scale your business with ease and effortlessly. And hey, if you want to sell your digitals all over the world, yes, we will provide you affiliates more than 200 countries. So everything is possible. Just live your dream, follow your dream, and whichever way we can help you, do let us know. Thank you and God bless you.